Thank you for joining our session today. I'm Felicia Campbell, and we also have with us Jared Gansey. We're both marketing managers with the Costars program. So in today's session, we really wanted to focus on things that superstars of the program do to help you increase your procurement processes efficiency as a member. If you're new to the program, that's okay. It's great information for you as well to begin on the right foot to get the most out of your membership. What we're going to focus on today are best practices of using Costars to make sure that you're the ultimate Costars program superstar. So what we'll talk about today is the importance of your member profile. We'll talk about how we use it to make you aware of important deadlines and program updates. We'll also go over a resource that'll help you identify your best value during the quoting process. We'll talk about other ways that you can use the Costars program for more than just procurement. We'll also talk about the difference between Costars exclusive and statewide Costars participating contracts and how you as a member can benefit from using all of those. And we'll go over the sodium chloride program, specifically focusing on deadlines and terms and conditions of that contract and the best practices of using the contract. And then the last thing we'll explore today is the Costars Training Center, so you know exactly where to find particular resources that you may need if you get stuck doing something within the program. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to talk about the member profile and how important they are. This is the only resource that our team has to connect with our members and make sure that we're conveying the important information on program updates and other deadlines and things like that that will affect your procurement process. It is a member's responsibility to regularly update their organization's profile to ensure that the information is current. So what we do is we recommend at least a yearly checkup. Just as a yearly health checkup with our doctor is important, so is a yearly checkup with your member profile. This is the heartbeat of your membership with Costars. So let's talk about the pieces and parts, and you'll kind of see how the puzzle pieces all fit together and what affects what within your member profile. The top section where it says registration details, that is all in regards to your organization. When we ask for your address in this section, many people put a post office box, and we do ask for a physical street address for your location. And the reason for that is on the right-hand side, our system automatically auto-populates legislative information based on your address, and that does not work with post office boxes. And we do use this information in our reporting to both the legislature and also our leadership, our deputy secretary and secretary as well. When we're talking about the general email in this section, a best practice for that is if you have access to a resource account for email that directs to more than one person. This way, if you have changes within your organization, you don't have to worry that you're missing out on information because it's no longer going to somebody who works in your office anymore. If you don't have access to a resource account, that's okay. Just make sure that whatever email address you're using there, that person not only understands Costars and the program and how important it is to you, but also who does that information affect. If your Roadmaster is not one of your contacts on your member profile, if this information being received is SALT related, they'll want to make sure they're sharing that information with the Roadmaster. In the section where it says information to share with Costars suppliers, this area you are allowed to opt in or out of any of those communication methods, but we do recommend that you at least choose email. I don't want our members to miss out on Costars exclusive timely offers that our suppliers may be extending to our members. So we do recommend that you at least select email for that, but it is your choice. In the contact section at the bottom is where you can define all the contacts that are part of the administration of your membership with Costars. You are not limited to just 3 as it looks like on the screen here. You will want to define a primary contact and make sure that primary contact is always up to date. And I've circled this column that says associated question mark. If you see, like you see here, Taj is listed as associated no, we will want to correct that, and momentarily I'm going to show you how to do that. If it says no, the first thing that person will want to do is register at Keystone Login to receive their individual username and password. And we do recommend that each contact for an organization holds their own username and password. Again, this alleviates that worry that if someone were to leave your office, the username and password has not left with them. You will still have access to your information. So let's look at, before we show you about association, let's look at when we should update our member profile. If something about your organization has changed, let's use, for example, maybe you've moved locations and your street address is different, or maybe you've changed internet providers and you have a new configuration of an email address, all great times to update your membership. Also looking at your contacts, if maybe somebody has left your organization, roles have changed, somebody's title, last name, email, or contact phone number has changed, you'll definitely want to update. And also if you're defining a new primary contact as well. If one of your contacts is not associated, we would want to go in and correct that to make sure that they are associated. And I will define what that means in a few minutes. And here's a superstar tip. Pick a special date for your yearly checkup. Again, it is very important that your information is always current so you're not missing important information from us. So I'm going to show you how to update your member profile, and part of that conversation will be associating your credentials. You'll first want to visit www.dgs.pa.gov/Costars. And if you forget to enter the /Costars, just look right in the middle of the page in this gray bar. You'll see a star that says Costars. You can always just click on that once you're on the DGS main page, and it'll take you to the screen that you're viewing right now. You'll select member information and then select members area, which will take you to what I refer to as the members portal, but it's really called members information or members area. On the left-hand side, you'll want to select Costars registration login. And also, before I show you the login screen, the area to search contracts is just below that where you see the arrow. You do not need to be logged in to search contracts, just so you're aware that is outside of the registration login area. But once you select login, there will be 3 boxes that pop up. I'm only showing you 2 because the third is for suppliers. So you'll enter your login information and log in. If for some reason your username and password no longer works, you can select new user registration. That'll take you to that Keystone login that I referred to. And from there, you can create your individual username and password, come back to this screen, enter your username and password and log in, and that'll bring you to this screen. So to update your membership details, you'll select this drop-down list. It'll show you the organization that you're associated with and update your membership details. If you don't see anything in that drop-down box, that means that you're not associated. And what we mean by that being not associated is the system knows that you have a key to the door to get in, but once you're inside, it has no idea where you belong. When you're associating yourself, you're associating your username and password with an individual organization. You can be associated with more than one organization, and I like to use, for example, if I'm a secretary in a municipality, but I'm also a volunteer firefighter, I can be associated with more than one Costars membership. So you'll just need to associate your credentials with each individual organization that you are a member of. So how to associate, you go to the second section. You begin to type either your organization's member ID or just start typing the name of your organization. You'll get a pop-up box of organizations that fit the criteria you just started to type. Select the correct one. Check this box that says you're an authorized representative of that organization and then submit your association request. Now you should be able to go to that drop-down box at the top. Your organization will be listed and you can update your member profile from there. And again, do that association request for a second organization or third if you are a contact for more than one. If you do not have a registration yet as an organization with Costars, you can just select new Costars membership, fill out the registration form, and then within a day or two, you'll hear back from us whether you've met the eligibility requirements and receive your new member ID. Next, I want to talk about identifying the best value in quotes. We have a great resource for that, and Jared and I truly believe that this is an underutilized resource. And I think partly because our members, many of them don't know that this even exists. So to view this, this resource that I'm discussing, again, you'll visit the DGS webpage and select the Costars page. Within that, you'll select member information. And then instead of going to members area to get this resource, below that, you'll see an area that says member resources. The Costars member quote kit is what I'm referring to. Before I show you the quote kit, right above that, there is a link to the guide to Costars contracts. We will talk about that a little bit when we're talking about the contracts section of this presentation. So just remember that it's available there. So let's look at the member quote kit. This is a 3-part workbook. The very first thing you'll see is the sample worksheet that you see on the screen right now. There's also a blank one that you would use during the quoting process, and then we'll talk about that request for a quote momentarily. So this worksheet really does help you easily organize and compare your quotes, and also I think it helps you to visualize where your value is, because the price point in your negotiations and quoting may not always tell the whole story. So I like to use it as an example that maybe I'm purchasing a passenger vehicle for my organization. And let's say in this scenario, I'm working with 2 vendors to get quotes. They both want to offer me value adds to make their offer a little more competitive in hopes to win my project. So let's say vendor number 1 has offered me a vehicle at $15,000, and they're going to throw in an upgraded complimentary sound system and nitrogen-filled tires to try to win that project. Vendor number 2 might offer me the same vehicle at $15,500, and they're going to offer the winter package, including winter tires and rims. So if I weren't using this, this resource, I might just be, saving email trails between each of the suppliers. And I may not be able to really visualize a couple of things. One, this may help me realize that that sound system and the nitrogen-filled tires might not be adding any additional usage of that product for me, where I am going to use this vehicle in the wintertime, and that winter package is really going to be valuable to me. Also, that winter package, I may realize at that point, is valued at more than that $500 additional piece of the quote. So that might be the best value for me, even though it's the higher cost. I also can easily see from tracking on this sheet what my negotiations and the quoting process was like. It'll help me visualize what that process was. How easy was it doing business during the quoting process? And then help me define, as I move forward with the purchase order and finalizing the purchase and any follow-up that is required after the purchase, how much is my ease of business going to be like with the supplier that I choose? All of that in this easily organized format really helps me to remember the process better. Okay, and then let's talk about that request for quote. You don't have to use this by any means, but this is nice. You'll send this information to the supplier. They'll fill out their quote and sign the sheet and send it back to you. So let's say a couple weeks go by before you go back to them to have that additional conversation with them. This always keeps you both on the same page of where you left off in your negotiations prior to this next phone call. I do want to talk about being audit ready. Our superstars of the program certainly know how to be audit ready. So I want to talk about all of the items that you need to have in your files for each transaction you make through Costars to make sure that you're audit ready. That's a pretty stressful situation to be in, and the more prepared you are, the less you have to worry about stress because you know you've got everything you need. So make sure that you have a hard copy of the individual supplier's contract, a hard copy of the contract overview, a copy of the supplier's quote and the supplier's name, the original price and the discounted price, and then also a hard copy of the purchase order that you finally send to the supplier you decide to work with. If you use the member's quote kit that we just discussed, I would recommend keeping that in your file as well to help you really define that due diligence that you've done, and help you really show how you made your decision based on value. If it's not the lowest price, that really helps in the auditing as well. So let's talk about how you can use the program for more than just procurement. We do realize that you have a lot of choice in your procurement process, and Costars is just an option for you. You don't have to use it, in every case. So use our contracts when you're purchasing outside of the program to get you price benchmarking. I want to make sure that as you're getting quotes outside of the Costars program, those quotes are at least in the right ballpark of pricing that you should receive. Also, as you're planning your budgets and also preparing to apply for grants, use our contracts to get your estimates on commodity costs. Jared and I have been participating in a lot of in a lot of grant writing workshops recently. And one of the biggest takeaways for us is how important it is to provide a lot of detail on your grants. The more detail that you can provide really gives a lot of meat for that grant reviewer to process, to decide that they're going to put you on the A list for grant award. So we've heard an example that I think is really kind of poignant. If you're asking for $50,000 to update lead pipes, if you can provide a lot of data that's more like, we need $50,000 to update lead pipes, and it's affecting a school, but also affects a church. Those pipes lead into more areas than just this school. X number of our community citizens are affected by these lead pipes. The more information you can provide with that kind of data is great. And rather than just saying, I need $50,000 for this project, list out what your project total cost is and the line items for what gets you to that total cost. That's where our Costars contracts can really help you there. And again, that just shows that grant reviewer that you have a solid plan. It really defines that this is a very worthy project for them to help fund. And the whole goal in the grant writing is not just writing that, but actually securing that funding. So please use our contracts to help you in that process. I just have two more things that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jared. One thing I want to talk about is Costars exclusive contracts and statewide Costars participating contracts. Jared and I have been out in the field talking with a lot of our members recently, and one common thread that I'm hearing from our members is some don't use statewide contracts and others don't even know that they're available for them to use. So that's why I thought this would be something for us to go over today. If you don't explore statewide contracts currently, you really should, and there are a couple of benefits for doing that. First and foremost, on both sides of that contract line, we often have parallel contracts for supplies and services, which gives you, when you're price shopping between the two types of contracts, you get a lot more power in your negotiations. So I want to point out a couple of the parallel contracts to kind of give you an idea of how you want to use them. So on Costars exclusive and statewide side, we have two different contracts, the maintenance, repair, and operation contracts. When you're looking at statewide contracts, please note that they're not apples to apples between those two sides on the MRO contracts. Statewide contracts, there are some individual pieces, let's say flooring, carpet, elevator repair services contracts. Those are all individual statewide contracts where the Costars exclusive have those pieces and parts all in that one lump of maintenance, repair, and operation. I wanted to bring that up because if you're looking for elevator maintenance, look on Costars exclusive, but also make sure that you're finding that individual contract on the statewide side to work with all those suppliers to get quotes and then really negotiate and play them off of each other to get that best price for yourself. Also with vehicles, there are parallel contracts there. And again, on the statewide side, many of those different types of vehicles fall under their own individual statewide contracts. Police vehicles are a separate contract. Passenger vehicles are a separate contract. Light duty trucks and vans and green vehicles are all separate, where on the Costars exclusive side, I can tell you passenger vehicles and green passenger vehicles are all on that one passenger vehicles contract. So let's also talk about complementing products between the two. So many of the members that I've been talking about in the field or talking with in the field have mentioned that they're purchasing, let's say, their first responder vehicles from the Costars exclusive contract. But what they didn't know was we have to, once we purchase the vehicle, we have to maintain it long term. What they didn't realize that was on the statewide side, they could purchase things like tires, motor oil, vehicle fluids of many types. If you keep bulk storage of fuel, we have that available as well in a contract. And we also have a fleet fuel card that helps you track your fleet fuel expenses and also offers you incentives for using that card through WEX. So those are all things that really help in the maintenance and long-term use of that vehicle. Also, if you purchase IT hardware from Costars exclusive contracts, you may be in a situation where you need to integrate current systems and equipment together. There is a master ITQ on the statewide side where those types of services would pair well with your product purchase on the Costars exclusive side. There's also an IT staff contract on the statewide side. So if you have the need for augmenting your current staffing in the IT department for a certain amount of time, that's a great contract to work with to get that IT staff. Also, I want to talk about the training services ITQ. I was looking at that the other day and it really hit me. I'm still learning things about the program day to day too, which is why we like to have these types of meetings with our members. I was looking at that and I noticed that there are numerous trainings on that contract that are tailored specifically for municipalities. And I also noticed that they offer data collection and analysis trainings on there, which, you know, all of us are pretty well attuned to making our long-term decisions based on data. So the more we know about how to collect and analyze the data that we're, housing in our systems, the better off we are in those long-term decisions. And if your organization is focused on emergency management, there are trainings for that as well, which will help you define what your current competencies are, and then also, how to plan long-term for emergency management. This is where I wanted to bring up your guide to Costars contracts. So again, as you're looking to see where you can get your quotes from between the two types of contracts, that guide to Costars contract is a great resource. It, in the front of it, defines the scope of each of the Costars exclusive contracts. And then the back of that guide, you'll see a list of all the statewide contracts that are available for our Costars members. So really get a feel for where your product lies in all of those contract lineups. And then you can start your negotiation process with individual suppliers from there. So I'm going to hand over the mic now to Jared, and he's going to talk to you about our sodium chloride contract. Take it away, Jared.
Thank you. Like Felicia said, I'm going to be talking about the sodium chloride contracts that we have. It's the most used contract by many of our members. It is also the contract that generates the most calls from our members. So I wanted to share the information that our Superstar users know to keep them on track. So the road salt program is voluntary, so each member must elect into the program each year. There are specific deadlines members must follow within the program to ensure they are adhering to the terms and conditions of their participation in the program. On approximately January 4th, we sent out an email to our members letting them know the deadline to submit the salt agreements for next year's contract, and the deadline is March 15th. So between April and July, we have the salt contract out for bid for the next year. In August, a new contract is announced and posted to the newsflash section of the members area, which is right there. And between August 1st and October 31st, members can purchase their initial tons from the supplier awarded their county from the new contract. And between November 1st and July 31st, members can purchase their winter tons from the supplier awarded their county from the new contract as well. So here's a superstar tip. November 1st is a great time of year to do your member profile checkup. Felicia mentioned this during her portion, that it's extremely important to update your member profile information. It's the only resource to make sure important information is getting to the right contacts. So you don't want to miss out on email alerts for next year's salt agreement deadline. So between December and February, members should analyze their salt submission quantities from the previous year, noting what their usage was to strategize salt needs for the next year. So between May and June, members will want to crunch the numbers on tonnage ordered during the current contract to make sure that by July 31st, you have met your 60% minimum order requirement. And the reason you would want to do this for members who have not met their 60% minimum order requirement by July 31st, suppliers can actually charge salt storage fees for any tonnage that is over the 60%. The superstar users strategize on their initial fill and winter fill quantities to ensure they are ordering throughout the contract timeframe, allowing them to meet the 60% minimum by the end of July, so they're not hit with the supplier fees. So we get a lot of questions, so I want to expand on some definitions of some things that I just said. So the initial tons are the tons that you agree to purchase between August 1st and October 31st. And then the winter tons are the tons you agree to purchase between November 1st and July 31st. And then the total tons obviously would be the sum of the initial tons and the winter tons from your sodium chloride agreement. So the 60% minimum requirement is calculated on the total tonnage from a member's salt agreement. If your stockpile doesn't allow you to purchase all of your initial tons you entered on your salt agreement by October 31st deadline, that's okay. Just make sure that by the end of July, you have ordered enough tonnage to meet the 60% minimum. So now I quickly like to go over some terms and conditions or highlights of the terms and conditions of the contract. So your salt agreement tons are not an estimate. That's why you need to estimate your tonnage from last year and make sure that you're keeping all those records so that this year you are ordering about the same amount. And members who do not meet the 60% minimum order requirement prior to July 31st may, like I said, be charged storage fees for their shortfall by the supplier. And just like you are required to purchase 60%, the suppliers have also agreed to provide up to 140% of the tonnage requirements at the contracted price. And the reason we do that is because, you know, especially here in PA, the winters fluctuate. Sometimes we get a lot of snow, sometimes we don't get a lot. So sometimes you may only need the 60% that you said you were going to need, and sometimes we get a lot of snow. So that's why the suppliers are agreeing to provide up to 140%. And just something to keep in mind that the minimum delivery is 22 tons or 1 truckload. And the contract permits that 30 days for salt delivery. Hold on, 30 days for salt delivery during the initial fill period, and 5 to 7 days for salt delivery during the winter fill period. So you don't have to wait that long for your salt, especially in the winter. You want to make sure that you're ordering it when you think there's going to be a big snowstorm. So 5 to 7 days is not that long. And members are to place orders directly with their awarded supplier as well. And obviously, it's the member's responsibility to read and understand all the contract terms and conditions. Now, I quickly want to go over some road salt best practices that our Superstar members do. So number one is Maintain current contact information for your member profile, like I already said, and Felicia said. Retain past salt submissions and maintain road salt data usage, so that when you're putting in the new orders, you are making sure that that number is accurate, because it's not an estimate. So use and reference the usage of last year in order to figure out what you're going to need for this year. And analyze previous submissions, like I said, against historical usage data. And be aware of your stockpile capacity and current fill amount. So obviously you don't want to order more salt than you have the capacity to store. And you want to submit registration for the new road salt season by March 15th. That's very important. You don't want to miss that deadline. And I think it's March 15th for every year, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
That is correct, yes. And then, so also, you're going to want to save the new salt contract from Costars member in the Costars member area in August. And place the initial order with suppliers between August 1st and August 31st. This is a little bit of a review from what I just mentioned, but it's extremely important, so I wanted to go over it again. And place your winter order with suppliers between November 1st and July 31st. And also, like I said, you want to confirm that you've met the 60% minimum purchase by July 31st, so you don't get charged by the supplier for storage fees.
Jared, can I quickly mention something before you go into this next road salt best practice?
Go ahead.
So we get this question a lot around this time of year. Many of our members will receive information from us that, you know, you may not have met your 60% ordering requirement because we're coming up closer to July at this point. And we get, after that notification, we get a lot of calls. How close am I to my 60%? It is really important that you keep tracking of your orders through the supplier, because we don't receive those orders. We have no means of knowing what your ordering history is for the contract year. So we can't give you any information on that. So the more you keep information on what you've ordered on what date and get you, tracking down to that meeting the 60%, that helps you as you're tracking throughout the year, but also you don't have that heart attack moment where you're like, oh my goodness, am I close to my 60%? We can't answer that for you. That has to be done through the supplier. So a best practice not on our list is keeping your order history in a spreadsheet or some means so that you know where you are at all moments. Sorry, Jared.
You're good. No, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. So one other thing I wanted to mention on the road salt best practices is this past salt contract, we had a bit of an issue with some suppliers and delivery and the quality of the salt. We have addressed those with the supplier, and they are making the necessary changes that they need to make. But if you have a problem with the ordering and delivery issues, if you have an issue, you would want to contact us immediately when that happens, and we will contact the supplier in order to straighten it out. So just know that we will contact the supplier on your behalf. And so before I wrap up today, I also wanted to point out some trainings that we have that are helpful for those longtime Costars members training new staff on using Costars. The trainings aren't new, but we've created a link, a quick link to access them. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go to dgs.pa.gov/Costars, and then on the fourth blue tile down, the Costars Processes Online Trainings. You're going to want to click on that. And then what you can't see on this slide is at the very top of this web page, there are instructions section regarding the list of training links for you to see on the slide. I'll show you a tip about these instructions on the next two slides, but before we go to that tip, let's talk about the trainings available on this page. So the first section on the training page provides step-by-step instructions on individual member processes. So if you get stuck doing one process in Costars, this section will provide help. And the very last link at the bottom will take you to recorded webinars just like this one, that we regularly record and auto-populate. The first webinar in this area will provide a nice overview and detailed contract search demo for the new users. The search demo begins around 22 minutes and 45 seconds into that recording. So if you're interested, go there and learn as much as you can. So the offerings you may not be aware of that are covered in the webinars include our electricity procurement program and an overview like Yelp or Yelp-like procurement tool called Procreated that we use, and the green procurement. Under the member training section is a training section for suppliers. So that may not directly pertain to you as members, but if you are working with suppliers that are not yet on the program, you can direct them to the webinar link in the supplier area. The first webinar in that area will give you an overview of the program and demonstrate how they can bid on contracts to become a Costars authorized supplier. So here's your tip on the step-by-step training modules. Once you open one of the training modules, it opens to a view called the cue card. I find this extremely difficult view personally. So in the top right-hand corner, you can use this drop-down section to select a different view. I like the simulation myself, but they also have the guided help as well, which will literally take you step by step and show you everything that you have to do. So we do have two great tools: the simulation and the guided help. So once you select the simulation view, you can choose one of the versions. Like I said, the first one is the one that I use, which is the simulation, and it will take you step-by-step process of how to do it. And the second version gives you also instruction, and it helps you by helping you click the screen to complete the step. So these are what we consider, again, to be an underutilized resource for our members. So these trainings, if you have a question or you're struggling on a Costars process or anything like that, you can probably find the answer in those trainings or in those webinars. So we do recommend that you poke around there and look and just see what you can learn and just look at the resources that we have available to you. And if you don't want to do that, you can obviously contact us. You can contact us at the number on the screen, or like I said, go to dgs.pa.gov/costars and look at our resources, or you can go to our email, which is gs-pa-costars@pa.gov. Someone's always manning the phones. Someone's always manning the emails. So we will get back to you fairly quickly with an answer to your question. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn in order to see announcements that we have and things going on in the Costars program that you may miss. So we have all these resources available for you guys if you get stuck. So that being said, we will now open up the floor for any questions that you might have. I know that we covered a lot of information here, so I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. So we're going to open the floor now.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So if we have a vendor that is not currently on Costars but is interested in the program, what's the best way to introduce them to so they can do their part and sign up, or evaluate whether they can join the program?
So we have a bunch of resources. You can go to our website. We have a whole supplier section, like I said, in the training section. They can go there. They can poke around. There's only 4 steps to becoming a supplier, and they're very simple. The first thing you want to do is get a vendor number with the state of PA. The second thing you're going to want to do is self-certify as a small diverse or small veteran-owned business. And then you want to electronically submit a bid package through our new e-bidding system. And then once you do that, we will send the supplier the annual administrative fee. I think all of those steps are on the training page, right, Felicia?
Say that question one more time. Sorry, I was typing in the chat and I wasn't hearing the question.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure we have a how to become a Costars supplier webinar and a training on the training resources page, correct?
That is correct. Yep, step-by-step tutorial on the electronic bidding, and also a supplier overview recorded webinar available.
Right, so you can direct the supplier you're talking about to that page, and they can figure out how to do it from there. Or like I said, that they can call the number that I had or the email, and we'll help them out 100%. So I hope that answered your question.
Yep, thank you. I do have one additional, it's more of a, I guess, a statement or I was just surprised a couple weeks ago. We were looking for a Costars supplier of an American flag, and we were not successful finding any suppliers through Costars that could provide an American flag.
Really, that's interesting. Felicia, do you know what contract that would be under?
I was just getting ready to open up the guide to guide to Costars contracts. I believe that is under our streetscape, but that's our short form of calling that or naming that contract. So let me find the real contract name for you.
The vendors we were guided to were basically uniform suppliers.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's not the one I'm thinking. Let me find the right one here. Where is it? Try Costars 33, street lighting, parking meters, and street furniture. That has under street furniture, replacement flagpoles, flags, and accessories are part of the scope of that contract.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. Sharon had a question about the difference between Costars exclusive and Costar or statewide Costars participating contracts. So the short answer to that, Sharon, is Costars exclusive contracts are the ones that are created specifically for the use of the Costars members. Our agencies cannot purchase from those contracts. Those are located if you, where you were going to log into the members area, right below that was search contracts. If you hover over search contracts, you'll see the first choice is Costars exclusive contracts. So those would all be ones that are listed as Costars 1, 2, 3, you know, those numbers. Statewide contracts are ones that are created for the specific needs of state agencies, but many of them are what we call Costars enabled, meaning that any supplier who owns a contract under that statewide parent contract can elect into the program. Once they've elected into it, then their individual contract becomes what we call Costars participating, which means you are allowed to purchase from those suppliers under their statewide contract. Does that make sense?
Can I add a point to that, Felicia?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you said it or not, but the Costars exclusive contracts, those prices are what we call ceiling prices. So you can negotiate the price on that contract.
I am looking up, there's a question about a contract for police firearms. That I might need a couple of minutes here to explore. Jared, do you want to look to see what other questions are out there while I'm looking for an answer on that one? Because that one I don't know off the top of my head.
So Tim Boyd said, searching for items is an issue I deal with a lot. It can be really hard to search for items easily if you don't know what the contract is. And a more robust search function would be really helpful. Yes, Tim, we understand that. We sent out a survey, I think about a month ago, asking people what were some improvements they would make to the Costars site, the member portal, and I think almost all of them were upgraded search capabilities and user friendliness. So we are aware of that. We're currently brainstorming ideas right now. If you have any ideas yourself on how we could fix this issue in terms of creating a more robust search function, feel free to email us. But one thing you have to understand is when we change stuff like that, it has a domino effect. So it'll change a bunch of things on the website. So whatever we do, it's not going to be a quick fix, but we are working on that. So just know that we do hear you. You're not the only one that's had issues like that. And yeah, we are working on it. So is it
Eric,
possible?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Fran said, is it possible to get a list of CoStars numbers and what's covered under each of those headings? This may be helpful with finding American flags. Yes, we have a guide to CoStars contract that lists all of our 42 CoStars exclusive contracts and specifically what's included in those contracts. And then we also have on the back of that our 100 statewide contracts as well. So the guide to CoStars contracts is on our website. You can go there and download it in the resources area, I believe, and or if you want to email us, we can also just send it to you that way. So we do have it's like a pamphlet or like a brochure that has a list of all of them.
So, Eric, going back to your question about police firearms, I'm not successfully locating that right now, but let me look into that a little bit further. I do know under a statewide contract, which again, that guide to CoStars contracts would be very helpful. There is ammunition, a statewide contract for that, but I'm not quickly finding anything about firearms. So I need to investigate a little bit more. And just to kind of piggyback on that thought and some other conversation I heard while I was searching, it's not a science, no real defined, the moment I know what I need, I'm going to find it quickly. Sometimes you have to, when you're searching contracts, especially for me on the statewide side, the e-marketplace search, sometimes you have to kind of think outside the box when you're searching. I had a member call asking for a particular product that I really didn't know anything about. I hadn't heard of that before. I can't remember what it was, but while we were talking through it and I was searching on eMarketplace, I was not finding it by using keyword and description. So then I asked the member, where would you use this product? And in the conversation, I realized it was something to do with car maintenance and it would be in a garage. So then I searched keywords garage and I found a NASPO, vehicle lifts and garage associated equipment. Sure enough, it was under there, but I had to think outside the box to find it. So the more you search, the more you become kind of attuned to where things fall. But in some cases, when you haven't looked for that particular product before, you're going to want to try a couple of different methods. And speaking of that, I do want to kind of define when you're looking at eMarketplace and defining your search criteria. If you use description, what that's searching for is in the title of the contract, the word that you've just used as your search criteria. If you use keywords, it's looking for all of the description within the contract overview. It's looking for that word. So I tend to start with a keyword search unless I know exactly what I'm looking for. And I know that the title is within the description of the contract title. But I don't use that very often because I don't know all of the statewide contracts by heart and their titles. So hopefully that will help you in your search for products and services in the future.
So Fran asked, do we have access to the eMarketplace? I've never heard of that before. Yes, we do. I can share my screen and show you exactly where that's at.
That'd be awesome.
So you would want to go to dgs.pa.gov and scroll down just a bit. And so here's the CoStars tab where you do everything that is involved with CoStars. And then on to the left is the eMarketplace. And this is where you're going to search contracts on the statewide side. So I go right here to.
Hey, Jared, before you do that, can you back up and go into members area and show them how to do that there too? So if they're doing price comparisons, they can do it from one screen.
Oh, how to search for the Costars exclusive?
Well, and the
Contract?
statewide from that same area, from the members area.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So let me back up a little bit here. So you go to dgs.pa.gov and then you click on the Costars tab right here, and then click on the member information area, right? And then click on the member area, and you can sign in with your Keystone login credentials on the left here, but you don't have to be able to search for contracts. So right here, you can search for Costars contracts, statewide contracts, and statewide ITQ contracts as well. And this will bring you to the place I was going to bring you before, which is a place where you can look for the statewide contracts by category, commodity specialist, contract number. That's the easiest way if you already know the contract number. Keywords by a specific supplier, green contracts, that sort of thing. So these are how you view the statewide. And you can also do by the Costars contracts. This is internal in the Costars member portal. And it's basically the same thing where you can search by contract, category, vendor, manufacturer. You can also search by the service area and by the vendor number or vendor contract number. And like Felicia just said, you do want to fiddle around with this. If you can't find the specific thing you're looking for, a specific product or service you're looking for, it doesn't mean that it's not there. It just means that you haven't done the right combination of search criteria. So look around as best you can. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can contact us by calling the number or emailing us, and we will direct you to exactly where you need to go, because we are more attuned to this than you are, and we love helping you guys find whatever you're looking for. So make sure that you are also comparing prices on the Costars exclusive contracts as well as the statewide in order to get the best value for your buck. So hope that answered your question, Fran.
So I want to briefly explain something. So you may be thinking in the back of your head, why do I need to pop out to two different areas to search these contracts? And again, that goes back to who those contracts were specifically created for. So again, Costars exclusive ones are created only for your use, and the agencies can only use the statewide contracts. That's why they're housed in two different locations. The agencies can't use your exclusive contracts, so we have to house those contracts in two different locations. So I hope that kind of helps clear that process up a little bit. Jared, I need to hop off for a little bit, so I'll come back as soon as this other call is over.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. So do we have any other questions? So if there are no more questions, I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar today. Hopefully you got some valuable information, and we will see you at the next one. All right, thank you, everyone.